Hi guys, I'm very sorry for the background and I'm very sorry for the lighting for this video because the lighting is very bad at the moment. It's getting very dark very quickly and it's the only place I found and the only time of the day I can film this video. Actually, I have an assessment of my portfolio in 1 hour, so I don't have too much time to film this video. And guys, what did I decide to make this video, guys? I've been procrastinating to make this video for so long, and honestly I didn't think I was going to make this video because I don't know, I didn't feel like confident enough talking about my MSRA preparation. All the videos I've seen about people sharing their stories, it has been like stories where people score very high, and I don't know, I didn't get that such a good scores. However, I've gotten so many emails and a couple of messages about people asking me how did I prepare for my exam, asking me recommendations for the exam. And I don't know, I thought maybe people, after knowing my story, they still want to know what do I have to say about this MSRA preparation. I got the last email yesterday. Well, it wasn't yesterday, I think it was a couple of days ago, but I read it yesterday. And I got a few questions, very interesting questions that maybe I can help answering based on my personal experience. And that's the story why I decided to make this video. I'm not prepared at all for this video, so I will just sit here and talk about my experience. So without delaying more this introduction, let's begin with the video. So I have here a couple of questions I've gotten, I summarized. So which resources worked best for you? I use, if you don't know my journey, I sat the MSRA exam twice. I used like few resources and I changed a couple of them in both sittings. In the first attempt, I used Past Medicine, I used Imedica, and I used Revised MSRA. So let's begin with the clinical part of the MSRA exam. So Revised MSRA, I didn't have any expectations with this question bank before I used it. I didn't see anyone talking about it before. However, I did like it. The questions are not that similar to the real exam, to be honest, but how can I explain? I did like a lot the revision papers. Is that how is it called? When they give all the explanation, the textbooks, all those things. I did find it very helpful. The explanations are more concise with Revised MSRA than Past Medicine. So about Imedica, I think Imedica is the most similar in terms of style of the questions to the real exam, is the most representative one. However, I think what I didn't like about Imedica is that the questions are very limited. It's not like other question banks that you may have like 300 questions on cardiology, and other question banks you can find that you have 200. Imedica only has like 90 questions and is a set number of questions for each specialty. It's the most expensive of all of the question banks I used. Honestly, it's not my favorite question bank. And what do I have to say about Past Medicine? Past Medicine is my go-to resource. Past Medicine, I really found it very helpful. I think 90% of the information I absorbed for my real exam, I got it from Past Medicine. Now that you have the resources I used for my first attempt, I will tell you how did I use it. So what did I do for my first attempt? I started with Imedica, but what happened? As you know, they only have a set amount of questions, and after I finished with that, I was like, okay, I feel like almost the same. The explanations are not that extended in Imedica. They are very short, concise to the specific questions, but you will not learn anything with Imedica. I think, to be honest, well, I will talk about that at the end. Then I went to Past Medicine, and is when I start learning and I started like absorbing all the information. I did it twice. after I did it twice, I solved the remaining incorrect questions to just to absorb well what did I did it wrong and what I needed to improve. And after I finished that, then I had some spare time, like a couple of weeks left before my exam, and I said, okay, let's try with revised MSRA, and it was fine. Found very helpful revised MSRA. So yeah, it's okay. And after I finished all of those things, I started with the mocks. In terms of mocks, I have to say Imedica, I think the only value of Imedica are the mocks. Apart from that, I would not recommend Imedica, to be honest. So for the SAT part, guys, I remember I barely studied for my first attempt. I only studied like 1 week for that exam. I solved one round of the revised MSRA questions, one round of the Imedica, and also one round of the revised MSRA. That's it. I didn't read the GMC guidelines, nothing, but I scored very bad. And I thought I was going to get better after my second attempt, but spoiler, that didn't happen. And that's it, guys. That was my preparation for my first attempt of the MSRA exam. So now let's go for my second attempt. Okay, for my second attempt, I wanted to improve my score in the clinical part, and of course I wanted to improve my score on the SJT part. For the clinical part, I started with past medicine again. I did it twice as the first time. This time I found that I solved the questions faster than the previous time, and of course it was very close, the preparation from one exam to the other exam, and I found it easier. After I finished with that, I tried with MCQ Bank. I think I did it twice. And what happened? Since I already had done twice the past medicine, I found the questions MCQ very similar in terms of the content. It was very similar, and I got the questions, most of them I got it right at that time. So guys, yeah, for the clinical part, the second time I only did past medicine and MCQ Bank. And that was it for my clinical part. I don't remember if I used Imedica for the mocks. For the SJT part, guys, this time I did pay a lot of attention. I studied like 2 months, like every week I studied the SJT part. I solved many questions, guys. I can tell you how many. I did twice revised MSRA. I did twice the MCQ. I did also Imedica question bank for the SJT. I read the GMC guidelines. There was also like a bank of questions for Anki that I also solved for the SJT part. But at the end, guys, I felt like I was scoring so bad anyway. It was like, how is it possible that you study so much and you don't get better? Is that even possible? Guys, SJT is something, that's what I didn't want to make this video, because I cannot recommend anything for the SJT part, guys. I wish I could tell you I did this and I tried this and it was like the same grill, but no, guys, I didn't find anything that was helpful at all. I do recommend you now reading the GMC guidelines, because now that I'm on a training program, guys, I see that everything is based on the GMC guidelines. I receive a lot of teaching sessions based on the GMC guidelines and the ethical part and the information that we are assessed on the SJT part. And I think that's one of the reasons why people score better when they are already working in the UK, because we receive constantly this type of informations regarding the good medical practice, and that's why. So this is everything regarding the resources I use for my preparation. So now I'm going to explain to you how did I organize my study, because as you know, I was studying and working at the same time, and it's not easy. It's not easy, guys. I used to have like a very stable job that used to finish at a certain time, and that allowed me to organize my study on a daily basis. And yeah, basically I used to start my study around 6 p.m. until maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Some days up to 12 o'clock. Okay, so this is a different day and I look like a Simpson. I'm sure about that because the lighting here is awful. So guys, I just wanted to finish this video. I have a question. How did you structure your study routine in terms like hours per day, strategy, those things? To be honest, I didn't structure my study in terms of hours per day or days per week. I structure my study more in terms of how many questions I wanted to do per day. How did I do it? Let's say that past medicine has like 3,000 questions in the question bank. Let's say I wanted to finish my question bank in 2 weeks, maximum 3 weeks, depending on how many days I have to prepare for my exam. But roughly, I usually wanted to finish my question bank in 2 weeks. So I would structure the questions I wanted to solve in a day based on that. I will divide the 3,000 questions in the amount of days I wanted to finish my question bank, and I would aim my study to finish those questions in each day. Of course, I would do some adjustments based on how many hours I have to study in a day. I know if there are some days I know I'm going to be more occupied with work or house chores, I would not do that many questions, or I would not leave the most complicated question banks for those days. And the opposite, if I know I would have days in which I have more time available to study, I will leave those question banks that are more complicated for me to solve, then I would do it those days. So roughly, let's say that average I would solve like 150 questions per day. Yeah, I think that was my average. There were some days I would solve more questions than others, but roughly I think that was my main goal in terms of question banks. And something I used to do, for example, let's say that I planned to solve 100 questions in a day and I would finish it earlier than expected. I would not solve more questions than what I planned. I will just rest that day, enjoy my day, because I knew the next day was going to be more difficult. I just wanted to be disciplined in terms of my preparation and stick to my calendar. I know it can be quite difficult sometimes to solve that many questions in a day. I remember in the beginning of my preparation, guys, in the beginning, to be honest, I would solve only like 20 questions in a day because I was so slow. I was reading all the explanation thoroughly, and I don't know, I have attention deficit. So sometimes I would spend like 5 minutes reading one question, and at the end I would not even know what the question was about. Yeah, I get distracted very easily. And something that helps me is drinking coffee. I don't drink coffee on a daily basis, so when I do that, I feel like a kick of energy and attention. And another thing that helps me quite a lot is set a timer, set the amount of questions to solve in a certain amount of time. Let's say, for example, solving like 50 questions in 1 hour in the beginning, maybe then you can increase that to 100 questions in 1 hour. And that's something that really helps me to keep my attention during that period of time. So another thing that I've noticed that helps me a lot is when I feel like I'm not like focused 100%, or I feel like, okay, it's taking me a lot of time to solve this question, I will just take a break, 5 minutes. I will just watch a couple of videos on YouTube, and then I will go back to solve the questions, because sometimes we are just exhausted and we are just wasting time in front of the computer, but we are not being productive. So that's not useful. So if you need a break, take a break. Maybe you can set an amount of questions before a break. Sometimes I said, okay, I will just solve like 20 questions, then a break. Or sometimes I would just say like, okay, I will study like for 20 minutes and then I would take 5 minutes break. So you can adjust it according to your needs. Okay, so I have another question. How you stayed consistent during your preparation? To be honest, guys, I don't have like a proper answer to that question. I think each person's motivation, each person's goal is different. I personally wanted to leave Tanzania as soon as possible. I was already like not enjoying my current job, and going back to Cuba was not also an option. So at that point, my only option was getting an offer to come to the UK, and that was my biggest motivation, to be honest. But there is nothing else I can say. There is nothing I could advise you in terms of doing to keep motivated. I think that if you really want to come to the UK and is your biggest goal in life at the moment, professionally speaking, then you will have the motivation you need to prepare. There is no other answer for that. Other question. Any tips you wish you knew earlier? Definitely. I think something that I did during my second attempt that I didn't do during my first attempt was solving more questions. I remember during my first attempt, I was reading a lot of notes from my Plat 1 exam. I'm not saying it's not useful, but I focus more in solving questions. I think, definitely I've noticed that it was more helpful solving questions instead of reading notes. Also, I created my Anki cards and I read the cards, and that's something I really found very helpful. So regarding the SJT preparation, I don't think that is proportional the amount of time you spend studying for the SJT exam and the amount of questions you are going to solve to the score you are going to get. It's not like the clinical part. So I don't want to say don't focus on the SJT part, because definitely you need to focus on the SJT part. But I think for the SJT, mostly read the GMC guidelines and maybe the SJT Professional Dilemma foundation year. I'm not sure how is it called, this book, but yeah, definitely that. I don't know what's the trick. I don't know what's the magic with the SJT things. So it is how it is. I think it's a matter sometimes of luck, because in the end, it's not like the clinical part that you did it well or wrong certain questions. Here is like you never know, and I don't know what to say. So what are my recommendations? So past medicine, I would definitely recommend it, because I have to say, was my main resource for my clinical part. I think each question bank that you choose, either MCQ, Samsung, or past medicine, I would definitely advise you to do it twice. I honestly think that each person's perspective in terms of what question bank is better than other it depends on which one you use first. Of course, if you read past medicine before the MCQ and you do it twice, by the time that you go to the MCQ question bank, you would know already all the answers, so you will not find that helpful, the MCQ question bank. The same with Samsung. If you solve the questions in Samsung twice, by the time you go to past medicine, you are going to find that it's pretty much the same. At least that's how I felt when I solved past medicine and I went to MCQ question bank. I forgot to tell you about the MCQ question bank that I really liked. Is some questions they will sign as this question appear in the actual exam, and that's something I really like, because then you have an idea how the questions in the real exam are, and then you get used to those type of questions. By the way, when I got those questions wrong, I was like, oh my goodness, if this is a real question in the real exam, then I'm lost. But it's okay. About Imedica. Imedica is a resource that I would recommend at the end of your preparation, when you already solved like 2 times past medicine or MCQ or Samsung. You solved twice that question bank, you solved twice your second question bank, and then you still have like some spare time and you don't know what to do, then you can go to Imedica, because there is a very limited set of questions in each specialty, and the mocks there are very good, I have to admit. The style of the questions are very similar to the real exam. The display is also very similar to the real exam, so you have an idea how your questions and how the screen on your computer is going to look like in the real exam. So, but apart from that, it's not the resource that you would use to prepare for your exam. So this is it for this video. I don't think I have anything else to give you. If you stay up to this part of the video, then thank you very much. If not, then it's okay. I wish you all the best in your MSRA preparation and see you in the next video. Bye!